There is something different about this year. You can feel it even if you can't name it yet. Not the way you feel excitement before a vacation or nervousness before a big decision. Something deeper than that. Something older. Like a part of you already knows that 2026 is not just another year on a calendar. Like something has been building toward this exact window of time, and somewhere beneath all the noise of daily life, you have been building with it. But here's the question that might be sitting at the center of all of that feeling. What if the reason nothing has fundamentally shifted yet, despite everything you've learned, everything you've practiced, everything you've believed, is not because you've been doing it wrong? What if you've been doing it right and still missing the one thing that actually opens the door? What if the door was never locked from the outside? Most of what you've been taught about spiritual transformation tells you to add something. More visualization, more affirmations, more gratitude lists, more frequency work. Bashar's teaching for this particular convergence of time and consciousness points in the opposite direction entirely. What you're being asked to do in 2026 is not more. It is something most people will read past because it sounds too simple. And in that simplicity, in that single shift, is everything you have been circling for years. 2026 isn't happening to you, it's happening through you. If this is already landing somewhere in your chest, somewhere that recognizes truth before the mind can explain it, you found this channel for a reason. We don't skim the surface here. We go all the way down. Hit subscribe and stay close, because what we're building together in this space is exactly what this year is calling you toward. Let's begin with something Bashar has been pointing at for decades, something that becomes almost unbearably relevant right now. He calls it the simultaneity of all realities. And the first time you really hear it, not understand it intellectually, but actually hear it, it rearranges something fundamental in how you see your own life. Here is what it means. Every version of your life that you have ever desired is not a future event waiting to be created. It already exists, right now. Fully formed, fully inhabited, fully real, in a frequency you haven't yet tuned to. The version of you who has the relationship, the abundance, the health, the purpose, that version is not ahead of you. It exists parallel to you, in this very moment, in a vibrational address that is simply different from the one you currently occupy. Think about a radio. When you're listening to one station, the others don't disappear. They don't stop broadcasting. They exist simultaneously, fully present in the airwaves around you. You simply haven't tuned to them yet. The moment you adjust the dial, a completely different reality floods your speakers. The broadcast was never waiting for you. It was always there. Or think about a library. Every book you haven't read yet is not a story waiting to be written. It exists, complete, on the shelf right now. Your ignorance of its contents doesn't affect its existence. The moment you walk to that shelf and open it, you access what was always there. You don't create it in that moment. You meet it. Your desired reality works exactly the same way. This isn't metaphor. Bashar is pointing at something structurally true about the nature of consciousness and parallel realities. You are not building the life you want, brick by brick, through effort and time. You are tuning, adjusting your vibrational frequency until it matches the address where that life already exists. 2026 isn't happening to you. It's happening through you. Sit with that for a moment, because it shifts everything that comes after. If the reality you want already exists, then your only work, your only real work, is to become the version of yourself who naturally inhabits that frequency. Not to earn it, not to deserve it, not to manifest it through the right technique. To become it, to embody it, to recognize it as already yours. Now here's where it gets more interesting, and where most people in the spiritual community accidentally stall out. You've been doing the work. You've been visualizing, affirming, meditating, journaling, clearing limiting beliefs. That is not the problem. In fact, that discipline is part of what has brought you to this exact moment of readiness. But there is a subtle trap woven into almost all of that effort, and Bashar identifies it with a precision that might make you catch your breath when you really see it. The trap is this. Every time you perform a practice in order to get something, you are broadcasting a signal that says you don't already have it. You are in the very act of reaching, confirming the distance between yourself and what you want. The reaching is the gap. The striving is the proof of absence. And consciousness, your consciousness, the field that organizes your experience of reality, responds not to your words, but to your state of being. It's not what you say, it's what you are. Think of a tuning fork. When you strike a tuning fork and hold it near a piano string tuned to the same note, the string begins to vibrate without being touched. This is called resonance. The string doesn't have to try to respond, it simply responds because it shares the frequency. Your life, your circumstances, the people and events that organize around you, they are the piano strings. You are the tuning fork, and the question is never, how do I get the string to vibrate? The question is always, what am I vibrating at? Or think of a mirror. You don't stand in front of a mirror and argue with your reflection, trying to convince it to smile before you do. You know that the reflection responds to the source, always, instantly, without exception. Your external reality is the reflection. You are always only forever the source. The moment you shift the source, the reflection has no choice but to shift. For me, this is where the teaching stopped being philosophy and became something visceral. I remember sitting with this idea for weeks, that I was not the seeker but the signal, not the one waiting for change, but the one generating the frequency that determines what change is even possible. And there was a moment, quiet and completely unremarkable on the outside, where I felt the difference between trying to get somewhere and simply being somewhere. It was like putting down a weight I hadn't realized I was carrying. That's the second layer of what 2026 is asking of you. Not more effort, a different relationship with effort entirely. 2026 isn't happening to you, it's happening through you. And now we arrive at the practical bridge, the place where this stops being a beautiful idea and becomes something you can actually do today. Because Bashar's teachings are not meant to be admired from a distance, they are meant to be lived. And if there is one instruction, one clear and actionable shift that defines what this year is calling you to do, it is this. Stop practicing becoming. Start practicing being. Here is what that means in real, lived terms. The next time you sit down to meditate, to visualize, to do any kind of frequency work, before you do anything else, ask yourself one question. What would it feel like if this were already true? Not what would it feel like when it arrives. Not what will it feel like someday. What does it feel like right now in a parallel reality that already exists to be the version of me who has this? And then, this is the critical part, don't perform the feeling. Don't manufacture it. Just notice whether there is any access to it, any sliver of resonance, any quiet place in your body that already knows what that frequency is like. Because if you can find even a thread of genuine resonance, not pretend, not forced, but real, you are not imagining. You are tuning. You are beginning to dial the radio. This is not visualization as a technique. This is you recognizing that the version of reality you want is not theoretical. It's real. It exists. And somewhere in you, there is already a part of yourself that knows exactly what it feels like to live there. Your job is not to create that feeling from scratch. Your job is to find where it already lives in you and let it lead. Bashar calls this your highest excitement. Not manufactured enthusiasm, the genuine pull, sometimes quiet, sometimes terrifying, that exists beneath all the noise of what you think you should want, what others expect, what makes logical sense. That pull is not random. It is directional information. It is your higher self communicating the path of least resistance to the frequency you actually belong in. 2026 is a year when that signal gets louder, when the gap between who you are performing and who you actually are becomes harder to maintain, when the parallel realities you've been flirting with in your inner life begin pressing closer to the surface of your experience. This is not a prediction. This is what Bashar points at when he speaks of convergence, moments when the conditions on the physical plane align with shifts in collective consciousness in ways that make certain kinds of transformation not just possible, but almost inevitable. For people who are ready, and you are reading this, which means you are, this year is not a waiting room. It is a doorway. And the thing that has always been true, the thing that no technique and no practice has ever changed, is that the doorway opens from the inside. 2026 isn't happening to you. It's happening through you. You came into this video with a feeling, maybe hope, maybe frustration, maybe that particular kind of spiritual tiredness that comes from wanting so deeply for so long. And underneath all of that, underneath the hoping and the trying and the occasionally wondering if any of this is real, there has always been something that kept you coming back, something that refused to give up on the idea that transformation is not just possible but yours, that something is not wishful thinking, it is recognition, it is the part of you that already exists at the frequency you're moving toward, calling back to you across the parallel realities, saying, you're close. You've always been close. The only thing that has ever separated you from the life you feel is yours is not time, not readiness, not worthiness. It is simply the habit of looking at where you are instead of recognizing what you already are. The version of your life that you have been reaching for is not waiting for you to earn it. It is waiting for you to recognize it, to tune to it, to resonate with it, to allow yourself to be the signal that calls it into your experience. Not through force, not through perfect technique, through the simple, radical, transformative act of being the thing you've been trying to become. 2026 is the year that changes everything, not because of what happens to you, because of what finally happens through you. You were never waiting for the right year. The right year was waiting for you to be ready, and you are.